Hey guys, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over a different version of the test, and I'm going to talk you through all these questions to help you with your corrections and help you prepare for a test retake. So make sure as you're going through this that you're writing all these problems down to turn in, because once you've done these problems and you've turned it in, then I'll let you do your test retake. Okay? So starting with number 1, describe the error Tamba made when simplifying the expression shown below. So how this is played out. Ooh, I can't zoom in like that, can I? Okay, yes I can. All right. So what this is saying is Tamba simplified this left side into this right side. So she's saying that these two things are equal to each other. Now, what we know is if we had 8 times 3x minus 1, and we were to simplify that expression, we would distribute the 8, which means multiply the 8, into the parentheses to both terms 3x and minus 1. So when I do that, 8 times 3x simplifies to 24x. 8 times 3 makes 24. But also, you have to remember that we're multiplying 8 to the negative 1 as well. 8 times negative 1 makes a negative 8, and we get minus 8. So this is the correct way of simplifying it. However, Tamba showed 24x minus 1 instead of 24x minus 8. So she's made an error. She's obviously wrong. So what did she do wrong is the question, right? Well, here's the thing. That minus 1 is wrong. The 24x she's got, that's good. We got that too. But she's supposed to have minus 8 and not minus 1. So to walk through our different answer choices, A says the common terms were not collected. This just means combining like terms. So like, for example, 2x plus 3x and then combining them together. We don't have any sort of combining like terms here. All we had to do was distribute, and we already know her mistake, and it wasn't combining like terms, so it's not A. The coefficient in the simplified expression is not 24. So it is 24. We got 24 ourselves because 8 times 3 made 24. So that coefficient is correct. So it's not that. That's not the mistake. That's actually correct. The expression was changed from one term into 2. That's not true either because there are 2 terms here and we have 2 terms at the end as well. So that's consistent as well. The factor was not multiplied by both terms. There's our answer, because she only multiplied the first term and got the 24x, but she must have forgotten to do 8 times negative 1. If she forgot to do that, she would have just left the negative 1 here, right? But if she remembered to do it, she would have changed it to negative 8. So she did not multiply both of the terms, right? So D is that final answer. Number 2, which is the graph of negative 5h plus 3 less than or equal to negative 7? I'm going to change this one a little bit. Well, no, I'll go ahead and do it exactly the way it is. We have negative 5h plus 3 less than or equal to negative 7. So when we solve this, our goal is to get the h by itself. Okay, let me adjust my colors here real quick. Right, we want the h by itself. Now I've got the negative 5 and the 3 on the left side of this inequality, and I just need to cancel those things out in order to get h by itself. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cancel out the 3. So the opposite of adding 3, the opposite of plus 3, is subtracting 3. Now what that's going to do is, here we have 3 minus 3, which means that that number is going to be 0 now, right? And negative 5h plus 0 is going to be useless. So, or the 0 part at least is useless, right? It's gone. The 3 is gone. We have canceled it out because 3 minus 3 would make 0 and go away, leaving you with negative 5h. You just have to make sure that you do minus 3 on the other side of the equal sign as well, because if you do it to the left side, you have to do it to the right side just to keep the inequality in balance. Okay. Now negative 7 minus 3 is going to make this number negative 10. Now I've got to divide by negative 5. That negative 5 is getting multiplied to h. When you see numbers like this that are kind of tied together, it's not negative 5 plus h. It's not negative 5 minus h. It's negative 5h. That means that these terms are being multiplied together. So if we want to get rid of negative 5, we have to do the opposite. of them being multiplied together, which means the opposite of multiplying is dividing by -5. That will cancel that out. And of course, remember, if we do it to the left side, we have to do it to the right side. So we're going to have h all by itself because we've just canceled out -5. And on the right side, -10 divided by -5 is a +2 because the two negatives make a positive. And 5 goes into 10 two times. But because we divided by a -5, a negative number, our sign has to flip over. So that's a very common thing for people to forget to do. If you ever divide by a negative number, you have to flip your sign over. So h is bigger than or equal to 2. So the gator mouth is saying that h is a bigger number than 2. So when we go to our graph and we're shading, it's definitely not A or B because they are at -2 and ours is +2. It's either C or D because they're circled at 2. But it's C in this case because it's bigger than 2. We're shading in the numbers that are bigger than 2. This is what represents H. The fact that H is bigger than or equal to 2. 3 is bigger than 2, 4 is bigger than 2, 5, 6, 7. All those numbers are bigger than 2, which is why they're shaded in. Number 3. Which of the following is a graph of the solutions of 2x less than 24 or x minus 6 greater than 13? So we have a compound inequality. We have to solve both of these inequalities and get our answer. So our graph will have two graphs on it, or two graphs on the same number line. So we have 2x is less than 24. It's very similar to the problem above in the sense that we're trying to get this x by itself, right? The x is on the left side, and in order to get it by itself, I have to figure out a way to cancel out this 2. If I can get rid of that 2, then the x is going to be by itself. Now remember, this is 2x that's stuck together. So it's not 2 plus x, it's not 2 minus x. That means 2 times x. So knowing that that 2 is being multiplied with x, I do the opposite, which is divide by 2. Dividing by 2 is what's going to cancel it out. But remember, if you do it to the left, do it to the right as well. So x is less than, and then 24 divided by 2 makes 12. We do not need to flip our sign here because the 2 that we divided by was positive. If we divided by a negative, I would flip the sign, but because it's not negative, the 2 is positive, I kept the sign the same. Now I still have to do the other inequality as well. The other inequality is x minus 6 greater than 13. Same idea as before. X here is on the left side. If I can cancel out -6, then the x will be by itself. Now this is subtracting 6. So to cancel that 6 out, to do the opposite, I would have to add 6 to it because -6 plus 6 makes 0 and therefore cancels out. So we have x by itself, knowing that that 6 now canceled, is bigger than 13 plus 6, which makes 19. So here are the two solutions. We have x is less than 12, and I guess technically, or x is greater than 19. So the graph of this one is C, because here's our number at 12, and we're shading less than 12 because it's saying that x is a smaller number than 12, right? The gator mouth is opening up towards 12, saying that 12 is bigger. So x must mean smaller. So we're shading to the left because 11 and 10 and all those numbers to the left are smaller. And then the other side of this is x is bigger than 19, right? The gator mouth is opening up towards x. 19 is the smaller part of that. So all the numbers that are bigger than 19. So we start at 19, we shade to the right because those numbers are bigger. So C is a correct answer there. All right, number 4. Which inequality represents the following statement? A number increased by 4 is at most 15. Now, whenever you see the phrase a number, think x, okay? So it's saying x increased by 4. So essentially that just means x increased means plus by 4 plus 4. So a number increased by 4, x plus 4, is at most 15. Now this is where it can be tricky. If it's at most 15, then it can be less than 15, right? And it can be equal to 15, but it cannot be more than 15. If it's at most 15, it can be less than 15. It could be equal to 15, but it cannot be more than 15. So therefore, x plus 4 is less than or equal to. So at most would mean the less than or equal to sign. which I know kind of confuses people because you think most, you think more than, right? But if it's at most, it means everything has to be below that, right? The most it can be is 15, so it can be anything below 15, and up to 15, but not over it. So our answer is C there. And it says N instead of X, but it's okay. A parking lot holds 42 cars. There are 26 cars in the lot already. Which inequality can be solved to show all the numbers of cars C that can be still parked in the lot? So we have 26 cars in the parking lot right now, and we can add C number of cars until we get to 42 cars. Now, our parking lot can hold less than 42 cars, but it cannot hold more. And it can hold exactly 42 as well. So our parking lot can hold less than 42 cars or equal to 42 cars, but it cannot be more than 42 cars. So this is saying, hey, we've got 26 cars in the parking lot right now. I can add more until I get to 42. And I can have less than 42 cars in my parking lot. I can have equal to 42 cars in my parking lot, but I cannot have more than 42 cars in my parking lot. So there's your answer. Julia wrote 10 letters to friends each month for n months in a row. Write an expression to show how many total letters Julia wrote. So I like to kind of write this all out, right? Let's think about month 1. Okay, month 1, Julia would have written 10 letters, right? And her total amount of letters at that point is 10, right? Because she just wrote 10 letters in that month, and that's 10 total letters. Now, the second month, month 2, Julia writes another 10 letters. But overall, over the past 2 months, she's done 20 letters in total, right? 10 plus that 10 makes 20 in total. On the third month, month 3, she writes another 10 letters, right? She's writing 10 letters each month. So every month, she's going to write 10 letters. Okay, but her total changes, right? Because after 3 months, she's now written 30 in total. After 4 months, she's now written 40 in total. And after 5 months, of course, she's written 50 in total. So N is going to represent months, right? So this right here is that like N value. Month 1, month 2, month 3, that's kind of representing N. So what's going on here is if you take the number of letters she's writing and you multiply it with how many months she's written, you get the total number of letters she's written, right? 10 per month. If she wrote 10 per month and she did it for 3 months, that's 10 times 3, which makes 30. If she wrote it for 4 months, that's 10 letters a month. For 4 months, that's 10 times 4. That makes 40. So the expression here is we're not subtracting months, we're not adding months, we're not dividing months. We're multiplying 10 times the number of months. So 10 represents the number of letters, n represents the number of months. And so it's multiplication here that gives us the total, right? 1 times 10 makes 10, 2 times 10 makes 20, 3 times 10 makes 30, 4 times 10 makes 40, 5 times 10 makes 50. So answer here is C. Solve for A. So we have, solve A equals BH for B. Okay, so we're solving for B. Now, here's the thing. Just like before, remember when we talked about like 2x and stuff earlier, we said, hey, you know what? Just to get the x by itself, I had to cancel out this 2. Well, here I'm solving for B. I need to get this B by itself, which means I need to cancel out this H. If I can cancel that H out, B is going to be by itself. But again, it's not B plus H, right? It's not B minus H, right? What this is that's B, because they're just stuck together, that means it's B times H. So because H is being multiplied, right? If I want to cancel it out, I would do the opposite. The opposite of multiplying by H would be to divide by H. So it's the exact same thing we did up here with 2. It's just we're doing it with a letter instead of a number, and that's okay. It's being multiplied to B, and the opposite of multiplying is dividing, so that's why we're dividing it to cancel it out. So when I divide it, don't forget, if I divide it here, I have to divide it on this side as well. So on the right side, it's just B, because now I've gotten rid of the H. so that b can be by itself. And on the left side, I have a being divided by h. And it's dividing, remember, because that's how I canceled it out on the right side with b. And I can't simplify that. I can't do anything about it. I can just write it out as a divided by h. So there's our answer. Number 8. Write an algebraic expression that represents 3 less than 10 times the number. 3 less than 10 times a number. And I already mentioned this, but when you see the phrase a number, think x. So this is really 3 less than 10 times x. Now, which of these expressions represents that? Well, 10 times x, we know we're looking for 10 times x, 10x. I have a 10x in A, I have a 10x in B. I don't necessarily have a 10x in C because that's 10 times, and then it's x minus 3. So it's not really there in C, and this is not 10 times x. This one's 3 times x, and that's not what this one says. This one definitely says 10 times x, not 3 times x, so it's definitely not D. So it's either A or B, just based on that. Now, when I see 3 less than, you have to think, where you're subtracting the 3. If I said that my brother is 3 years younger, I guess, 3 years less than me, right? Let's say that let's say I'm 15, right? My brother's 3 years less than me. Then I'm saying my brother's 3 years less than 15. But I'm not going to say 3 minus 15 to figure out his age, right? If I say he's 3 years less than my age, he's 3 years less than 15, which I'm not 15, by the way, I'm just saying, okay? Then I would do 15 minus 3 to know how old he is, right? So even though it's phrased 3 less than 15, what we're really thinking is we're taking 15 and we're subtracting 3 from it. This is 3 less than the 15. So when I see the 3 less than 10x, we're actually doing the same idea. 3 less than 10x means we're really taking the 3 away from the 10x. It's not coming first, it's actually coming second when we write in our expression. We have the 10x first, and then we subtract 3 from it. 3 less than 10x. Because that's what I would do with my brother's age. If I said he's 3 years less than my age, I said 3 years less than 15, I would not do 3 minus 15. I would do it the other way around. I would do 15 minus 3. So in this case, we're doing 10x minus 3. We have B as our answer. Number 9, which equation represents the relationship 3 more than a number is 7? So here we go again. 3 more than a number. Remember, a number, think of the phrase x. 3 more than x is 7. Now, immediately when I see is 7, I know that this means equals 7. So I know, let's go ahead and rule out B. B's equal, it says equals 3. It's definitely not B. So it's definitely A, C, or D. Now, 3 more than x, it's kind of just like the last problem. How we had 3 less than, I would subtract 3 from the 10x, right? Well, this is 3 more than x. So what this is doing is means we're going to be adding 3 to the x. Okay? So we're actually adding the 3 to the x. We're not subtracting. We're not multiplying. We're adding the 3. 3 more than x is 7. If I said I was 3 years more than my younger brother, and my younger brother was 12, then I'd be 15. I'd be doing 12 plus 3. If I was 3 years more than him, then I would be 3 years older than him, which would make just 12 plus 3. You can know my age. So you'd be adding it, right? You'd be doing addition. So there's our answer for number 9. How many terms are in the algebraic expression? Now, this confused people originally because they saw the double xy here. But think of this. All terms are separated by plus and minus sign. So if you want to think of it like that, just anywhere you see a plus sign or a minus sign, make a barrier. So there's a minus sign here. There's a plus sign here. Now, that separates all the terms. So now you can count out the terms. We have 3x as a term, have that 16xy as a term, and we have the 17y as a term. There's 3 spaces here, 3 separate terms. The xy, even though it's 2 letters, they're stuck together, which means they're part of the same term. So that does count as just one term. Okay, all terms are only going to be separated by plus signs and minus signs. So the answer here is that there are 3 terms. Okay. Number 11. So solving for A and write the reason for each step. I'll go ahead and write the reason for each step as well. So we have 4 times A minus 2 minus 7 equals negative 55. I'm just rewriting the problem right now. Now, the first thing I notice is these parentheses, right? We have 4 times A minus 2. So we talked about this all the way back at the very, very first problem. I'm going to scroll real quick, see if I can find it. Yeah, right? When you see the parentheses, we use the distributive property, which means we're multiplying to both terms in the parentheses. So we're going to do that here as well. So we're going to have to multiply 4 to the A and to the negative 2. We're going to do this first. 4 times A is going to make 4A, and 4 times negative 2 will make negative 8. Now everything else I'm just going to bring down. So negative 7 equals negative 55. All that stuff staying the same. All I've done was simplify the parentheses into 4A minus 8. Now I notice that here I have negative 8 and negative 7, minus 8 and minus 7. There are 2 terms that I can go ahead and just put together because I know what negative 8 minus 7 is. Or I can use a calculator, but I know they belong together because they're both just plain numbers. So when I bring them together, negative 8 minus 7 makes negative 15. So I'm going to bring everything else down. I still have 4A, and I still have equals negative 55. Now I'm going to write what I did before because I forgot to. Distribute. I distributed before, and here I combined like terms. I'm going to move my work over here. So I'm just going to copy down my last step. I had 4A minus 15 equal to negative 55. That's where I was last, right? So I'm just moving this over here because I'm running out of room. So now I'm trying to solve for A, so I'm going to try and cancel out this minus 15. If I can get rid of the minus 15 and the 4, then A will be by itself. Now, because this is subtracting 15, the opposite of subtracting 15 is plus 15. So we would add 15 to both sides. And what that's going to leave us is negative 15 plus 15 cancels out. So we have 4A equal to, and now we just got to simplify here. Negative 55 plus 15, that's kind of tricky. But think of it as you owe somebody $55 and then you pay them back 15. So now you only owe them $40, negative 40. Okay, you can use a calculator too. That's okay. Now, we've already canceled out the 15. Now I got to cancel out this 4. And because that 4 is glued together with that A, I know that means 4 times A. So to cancel out the 4, I have to do the opposite of multiplication because that right now is being multiplied. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide by 4 and it'll cancel out. But again, because I did it on the left, I have to do it here on the right side as well. So A is going to be equal to negative 40 divided by 4, which makes negative 10. And there's my final answer. Oh, in my work, this is the addition property of equality, meaning that I'm adding on both sides. And this one is the division property of equality because I was able to divide on both sides. So addition property of equality because I added 15 on both sides. Division property of equality because I divided by 4 on both sides. So that's all the steps explained. Number 12. Here, it's a compound inequality, so we really have like a 3-sided inequality or 3-sided equation. It's not an equation, but people understand what I mean when I say that. Our goal, again, just like anything else, is to get the variable by itself. So x, notice where x is. It's in the middle section. That means I want to get it by itself in the middle section. In order to get it by itself in the middle, that means the minus 2 that's in the middle with it has to go away. I have to find a way to cancel out minus 2. So because that's x minus 2 and it's subtracting, I'll do the opposite to cancel it out. So the opposite of minus 2 is plus 2. So I'm going to add plus 2 to the middle so I can cancel out that 2. Negative 2 plus 2 makes 0. But remember, if I do it to the middle, I have to do it to the left side and the right side. Just like, You know, up here, when I did adding 15, I did it to the left and the right. When I divided by 4, I did it to the left and the right. So when I add 2, I'm doing it to every part of this. I'm doing it to the left side and the right side as well. And now I'm just simplifying. So 6 plus 2 turns the left side into 8. In the middle, because the 2's are canceled out, I just have x by itself. And then on the right-hand side, 14 plus 2, which makes 16. Now the problem is done. The problem is done. There's no more work to do because the x is all by itself in that middle part. That's what we wanted. It's saying that x is between 8 and 16. So there's our final answer. Now, if it's okay with you, I'm gonna skip these last 3. If you want to see work on how to do them, well, I'll do 13, but I'm gonna skip 14 and 15. 14 is very similar to the inequality we solved up here in, well, a lot of these. Similar to number 2, similar to number 3. Number 15 is also similar to number 3. So if you know how to do number 2 and number 3, then you'll be able to do number 14 and 15. Okay? So be very mindful of that. But I'm going to save them for, I'm not going to do them here just because running out of time. And, well, I've already shown you kind of the math behind it. So here, but in 13, we have r equals to v over I, and we're solving for v. Now, v is right here, and we want to get it by itself. That means we need to cancel out I. So notice what's happening here. This is v over I, which must mean v divided by I. So because this is division, if I want to cancel it out, I would have to do the opposite of division. Now, the opposite of division is multiplication. So instead of dividing by I, which is what's happening in the problem, I can cancel out dividing by I by multiplying by I. That will cancel out the fact that I'm dividing I. But again, because I did it on the right-hand side, I have to do it here on the left-hand side as well. I have to multiply I over there. Okay, so how this looks is on the right-hand side, the i's both canceled each other out so that v is by itself. And on the left-hand side, I have I being multiplied to r. So I have I times r. And this is it. The problem is done because the v is now by itself on that right-hand side. There's nothing else over there with it. V is by itself, and it's equal to I times r. And that is your answer. All right. That's going to be it. I'm going to wrap it up here. If you want to do a retake, make sure you turn this into me, and I will give you your retake. See you guys later. Bye.